The Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is still coming, as what began as a dream announcement back in 2021 has devolved into years of silence, studio changes, corporate upheaval, and mounting questions on whether this beloved classic will ever see the light of day. Here is everything you need to know about the current state of this long-awaited remake. Let's start off with the rocky road from Aspyr to Saber Interactive. When Sony and Aspyr Media announced a KOTOR remake during the PlayStation Showcase back in 2021, fans erupted with excitement. The original 2003 Bioware RPG remains one of the most celebrated Star Wars games ever created, and the prospect of experiencing it with modern graphics and gameplay felt like a gift for long-time fans. However, behind the scenes, development was already struggling. By summer 2022, disaster struck. Aspyr abruptly fired the game's art director and design director, sending shockwaves through the development team. By August 2022, Aspyr was completely removed from the project. Reports suggested that parent company Embracer Group had lost confidence in Aspyr's ability to deliver the remake at an acceptable pace and quality level. The studio that announced the game with such fanfare was suddenly out of the picture entirely. And then came the Saber Interactive takeover. In a dramatic pivot, Embracer Group handed the troubled project to Saber Interactive, a studio with a proven track record of handling licensed projects and delivering solid, if not groundbreaking games. Saber had successfully developed games like World War Z, SnowRunner, and would later deliver the well-received Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. This transition marked a complete restart in many ways. While Saber could theoretically build on some of Aspyr's work, the change in development leadership, creative vision, and studio culture meant the project essentially had to be re-evaluated from the ground up. Now, we actually had some leaks off Aspyr's version, which gave us a glimpse behind the curtain. A former Aspyr artist shared portfolio images showcasing weapon assets from the game. While these images were limited in scope, showing only individual weapon models rather than gameplay or environments, they provided the first concrete look at the remake's visual direction under Aspyr. Now, the weapons displayed a level of detail and fidelity consistent with modern AAA game development, suggesting that despite the project's troubled production, actual work was being accomplished. However, these glimpses also underscored how little the public has seen from the game when first announced over 3 years ago. Now, Saber Interactive has given some reassurance to the fans that the game is alive and well. The most recent official word on the KOTOR remake came from Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Kark in April 2024. Speaking with IGN, Kark offered reassurances that have become the game's unofficial motto: the game is alive and well. It's clear and it's obvious that we're working on this, Kark said. It's been in the press numerous times. What I will say is the game is alive and well, and we're dedicated to making sure we exceed consumer expectations. While these comments confirm that the project hasn't been cancelled, they're notably vague about specifics. No release window, no gameplay footage, no substantial updates about development progress, just assurances that the work continues. For a project that's been in some form of development for over 3 years, this level of opacity is concerning. There is also the question of Sony's involvement with this remake now, as perhaps the most troubling development came in September 2023 when Sony quietly delisted the KOTOR remake's announcement trailer from its official channels. The reason given was the music, but this explanation raises more questions than it answers. How does a major publisher lose the rights to use Star Wars music in a trailer for an officially licensed Star Wars game they are publishing? The music in question would have been licensed through Lucasfilm and Disney as a part of the game's overall licensing agreement. For Sony to suddenly be unable to use it suggests something fundamentally has changed in the project's licensing or publishing arrangement. Adding to the mystery, Sony deleted the Twitter post featuring the trailer and then never re-uploaded it or offered any additional clarification. The trailer remains missing from the official PlayStation channels to this day. Industry insider Jeff Grubb shed more light on Sony's apparent retreat, where he said that my understanding is that Sony wants nothing to do with it anymore, which is why I thought it was dead. Obviously though, Saber still seems very determined and I have a lot of trust in Saber. Now, this statement does suggest a significant shift in publishing relationship, as Sony Interactive Entertainment was prominently featured as the publisher in the original announcement, with the game positioned as a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. If Sony has indeed distanced himself from the project, it raises critical questions. Is the game still a PlayStation console exclusive, which is likely it's not? Who is actually publishing the game now? Did Sony lose confidence in the project after Aspyr's dismissal, and has the licensing arrangement with Disney Lucasfilm changed? The silence from Sony speaks volumes. The publisher has made no statements about the game's status, hasn't shown it at any PlayStation Showcase event since 2021, and appears to have scrubbed its association with the project from official channels. But that's not all. The Embracer Group, the parent company of Saber Interactive, also went through a huge change in February 2024, whereas the already complicated situation situation was growing even more complex, Embracer Group, which acquired Saber Interactive for $525 million in 2020, announced it was selling the studio to a group of private investors for $500 million, taking a $25 million loss on the deal. This sale was a part of Embracer's massive restructuring effort following its disastrous attempted partnership with Saudi Arabia's Savvy Games Group, which fell through and left Embracer scrambling to reduce costs. The company had gone on an acquisition spree, purchasing dozens of studios and IPs, only to face a reckoning when financing dried up. Sale of Saber Interactive meant the studio developing KOTOR Remake would become privately owned, operating outside of Embracer's direct control. While this could potentially provide more stability and independence for Saber, it also added another layer of uncertainty to the remake's future. The deal reportedly included options for Saber to bring along multiple Embracer subsidiaries, though details remain unclear about which studios or assets this entails. So let's actually see what's on Saber Interactive's plate, as they have multiple projects in development. As understanding Saber Interactive's current workload provides important context for the KOTOR remake status. The studio isn't sitting idle waiting to finish one game, it's actually juggling an ambitious slate of different projects. Last year they had a very successful release of Warhammer Space Marine 2, which they continue to add post-launch content and are gearing up for more Space Marine projects. They also have Jurassic Park Survival in development, which is a single-player survival horror game, and in collaboration with Paramount Games they actually have Avatar: The Last Airbender AAA RPG, which is known as Avatar Ice Wars, which I have done a full breakdown on, which I'll leave in the description and comment section below. They are also developing Warhammer 40k Space Marine 3, Turok Origins, Docked, Busbound, Hellraiser Revival, and John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. This extensive development slate reveals both Saber's ambition and potential challenge, which is resource allocation. With at least 9 major projects in various stages of development, including 2 massive RPGs with KOTOR and Avatar, questions arise about how much attention and personnel can be devoted to each title. The Avatar Last Airbender RPG is particularly relevant because it represents direct competition for resources with KOTOR Remake. However, this is in collaboration with Paramount Game Studios, and it shows me that Saber is very confident in creating RPGs if they've taken on 2 massive RPGs being in 2 huge IP universes. However, the concerning case here is that there has been no RPG at this scale for Saber Interactive thus far. Now they are developing 2 which are absolutely huge, and with resource distribution challenges, so many projects in development simultaneously, can Saber give KOTOR the focused attention it requires? And with no real update on the game in 2025, it is quite concerning. However, there's a reason why Saber Interactive took on this game. They know it's important, they know the legacy behind KOTOR, and delivering a Knight of the Old Republic remake in this day and age, where Star Wars has taken a bit of a downturn in this PG Disney era, a more grounded, gritty, dark Star Wars game, especially an RPG to this scale, could really tell a different Star Wars story to a new generation. And we all know a successful KOTOR 1 remake will then lead to a KOTOR 2 remake, and perhaps even allow then Saber Interactive to then create the fabled KOTOR 3. This is a huge opportunity for Saber Interactive, and I know that Saber Interactive knows this because otherwise they wouldn't have taken this project on. They have some confidence that they can pull this off. They have seen what Aspyr was doing, they know where they went wrong, and they also know that this franchise would be an absolute goldmine for the company. With a successful release of a KOTOR remake, Saber Interactive would be on the list for top RPG game creators on the level of a CD Projekt Red, Elarian Studios, Bethesda Game Studios, and much more. And also retelling this story on modern systems with modern graphics and modern gameplay will allow other game developers to also tell more darker stories within this universe. Hopefully as we go into 2026 we can get an official update from Saber Interactive with maybe some concept art, another teaser trailer to re-announce the game, maybe even a small tech demo, and even a vague release window. We know that Saber Interactive started over from scratch on the KOTOR remake behind the scenes after taking it over from Aspyr, and this was done in 2022, which means the game has been in development for 3 years now, and we're going into its 4th year, which hopefully means that in 2026 we can get some official new updates on the KOTOR remake and its status. And I will be updating you on all the new Star Wars games from Star Wars Eclipse to Jedi 3, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll also leave the Avatar game breakdown in the description and pinned comment section below. Bye bye.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.